My name's Jim. I came over here 4 years ago, also a typical London accent. I came over from Chicago. Eighth Light was started 11 years ago, last September, so it's been just over 11 years. I've been there 11 years from January, and I've been here for 4. So we started from scratch, which was really nice, and we implemented this really amazing engineering, craftsmanship focused culture. I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we do, some of the things that we were able to start from scratch. So as we go in, as Ruben said, we are a consultancy. We come into organizations that are in trouble, that don't have the benefit of starting from scratch. So some of these things we can apply to it, but it isn't as easy. But I do want to talk about some of the things that we found important and have been able to sort of continue for 11 years without losing who we actually are. We're all about well-crafted software, but not just for its own sake, right? So adding value within our partnerships and also giving back and contributing to the community. So these are sort of the values that we've identified 7 years ago, which sort of we had some time to figure out who we were and then put it to paper. We live these every day. And a lot of the things that we'll talk about, you can tie all of that back to some of these core values of who we are. We're lifelong learners. This is the biggest thing about our organization. Everyone has an eagerness to learn. A lot of the things that we do are all around this, whether it's community-based, whether it's our Friday afternoons, which we'll talk about. This is what we're looking for in people. So as we talk about recruitment, as we talk to some of our clients who have trouble recruiting, they're always looking for that perfect senior engineer who's got everything that they need. We believe you can learn how to do that, and we invest heavily in doing that, and that's sort of how we've traditionally done our recruitment. Through our apprenticeship, our modern apprenticeship, it's not a UK necessary apprenticeship, so we've been doing it in the US for 9 years, here for 4. It's an extended 6-month process, typically, so this is when we learn how to work in a common way and get into a culture of engineering, right? Like we all have common practices and all tied back to our common principles. Our teams are super effective, whether they've been working together for a year or just a couple days, they're able to work together well, which is what we're looking to help our customers do as well. Well, high-functioning teams are awesome to work with. So how do we tie our people together? So some of the rituals that we've implemented, I think, are interesting. I think as people come into our office, they notice some of these things, right? So these are things that are strong, that are core to us. We shake hands beginning and end of every day, or fist bump, depending on if people have colds or not. It started from the start, right? So this is just something that happened. There's a blog post on our, way long ago, one of our first people that came on. I was like, what is this about? But bookending your day, showing common respect, like that's sort of the core of what we are. We're part of a team. This is a way to recognize that, to celebrate that. Every day, every week, we bring in lunch on Fridays. So we're a consultancy, so a lot of our people are away for 4.5 days per week on site, helping our customers be better, be great. But Friday afternoons, we come together, we share a meal every single Friday, and that sort of kicks off our Friday afternoon, no billing. This is a way to keep the social bits of the company together, a way to learn, run workshops, teach each other, that sort of thing. So Eighth Light University is something we started. We've moved into delivery. That's really where we wanted to be because we felt that training wasn't effective. We found ways to make training effective, which is sort of these longer engagements as we're embedded with teams. But AWU is part of that, right? So we're coming from this training and teaching mindset. So oftentimes we'll have lunch, we'll do it at AWU, someone talks about something, we learn about something, and then we move into our waza time, which is Japanese, which we'll have a couple Japanese words here, which is influenced Eighth Light. Waza means technique, so this is a time to practice. Originally the thought was that it will contribute to open source. Now there's a social component to it as we come back together and work together, see what other people have learned over the week. We'll run workshops. It's really open. People have ideas for what they want to do with their waza time. We'll entertain it. It's not meant for billable work. It's meant for your personal development, company development, that sort of thing. For us, this is really important because this keeps, as a consultancy, all of our crafters together. These rituals aren't static, so all the ones that we've already looked at so far are across all of our 4 locations. We're in LA, New York, Chicago, and London. something that we've started here recently is Pie Thursday. So someone makes a pie, brings it in on Thursdays, and everyone looks forward to it, and it's just a great way to get together and build the team, right? Keep that spirit of teamwork together. So as we talk about building a culture and attracting talent, there's certain things that I think all organizations should do. Like I think that this is like a bare minimum, but I want to go through some of the things that we have always done and will continue to do. So self-edification, right? Going out and speaking and learning at conferences is really important. A lot of times our WASA times, we actually have, this Friday we have someone presenting what they've learned at a conference, right? So we pay and give time to go to conferences to learn, to go network, go meet new people, get new ideas, not to be an echo chamber, right? So we want to bring new ideas back into our culture. And as we talk about recruiting, this is one of the biggest ones I think that has helped us. So as our crafters go out and speak, one, we'll subsidize it, we'll pay for your travel wherever it is in the world. This is a great way to share our message and get people interested in our company. And this has been a fantastic recruiting tool. We don't do any outbound, as it is right now. Traditionally, we haven't done any outbound marketing for recruitment. This has been it, right? User groups, conferences, getting out into the community. Community has always been important to us, giving back. I mean, working with organizations like Code Bar, Queer Code London, that's been awesome ways to recruit as well. Besides conference budget, we also books, screencasts, those sorts of things. So courses, if you want to learn outside of sort of how we're learning with your other crafters, this is something that we offer as well. These are things that I recommend to all of our customers. These are, if you've got lifelong learners, you need to invest in it. You need to encourage them to continue to learn. Pie Tuesday, snacks are always important. Something we've focused on recently, really focused on, is continuing ongoing professional development. So whether it's trainings that we're providing, we have a new Chief Talent Officer, which you should hear from a little bit later, who's helping us quite a bit on making this a lot more formal and a lot better than it was. It was still going on, it was sort of ad hoc, but I think this is really important and something that what I've heard from our crafters is this is really important for their continuing education, their continuing development within the organization. Another one I got yesterday from Dan. So we're a small organization, so you have opportunities to lead straight away, like within a month of graduation. There's opportunities to head up a committee, head up a group of people who want to make a change and actually affect change straight away. So these are all things that help with our retention and things that we can talk about as we recruit. So I think the story is important, and that's what sells our company. So to reliably get senior engineers, what we found is we invest heavily in our apprenticeship program. We grow them over time. We don't necessarily seek out senior engineers, although we're going to be doing more of that. But I think there's two paths, I think, that companies should be thinking about, and we're thinking about, which is grow your own, so you can control, take those makers grads, right? Take the junior developers out there and grow them into senior talent that are excellent by setting up your own program potentially. So our modern apprenticeship is very much focused on learning. What is it? So 3, 6, 12 months, you're paid a decent salary to learn. You're working on side projects, you're working on your own projects, you're working within teams, you're learning how to write code in 3 different languages. Design and maintainable code is really important. We focus on that quite a bit. But it's personalized, right? So it's not just a course that you go through. So depending on where you come from, if you may have 5 years experience, your apprenticeship is going to look much different than someone that comes out of Makers or hasn't been coding for more than a couple months. You get 2 mentors, but it's not just restricted to that, but they're going to work with you week to week, give you feedback. It's really, the best way to learn is hands-on, and getting that constant feedback from a mentor we found is really, really, it really speeds up the development of someone's learning. There's an additional support network, right? So it's not just your 2 mentors. You've got the entire office. You've got a group of apprentices that all work together. And it's a lot of writing code, writing blog posts, giving presentations. So it's all the things that we know you need in order to be a good software developer. Communication is super important, as well as technical skills. And giving and receiving feedback is critical as well. In the end, it's a ton of practice, right? So you're not billing. You don't have the pressures of client work or your day-to-day, your boss breathing down your neck to get something done. So you've got the space to explore, the space to try things, to break things, recover from it, and try it again with guidance from your two mentors. As part of the apprenticeship, you also go out and pair with a bunch of your colleagues, your peers. So you get to see the type of work that we're going to do, go into different client situations and begin to observe and to begin to become a consultant. So at the end of it, we have a set of challenges that you have to submit after a 2-week period. There's a review board of your peers who recommend whether or not they'd like to become part of your team. So this is all a shared experience where everybody has this high bar. They hold each other to account. And it starts from the apprenticeship. This doesn't stop, like holding each other accountable and making sure that you're doing good enough work that we're proud of is a common thing. Another common experience that we have is just even a crafter's welcome. So sort of these rituals that everyone goes through. So after your review board, there's a ceremony which celebrates sort of the work that you've done. These are all just small things that I think add and cement to the culture that we've built from the ground up and continue to maintain. So the idea here is, how do we find our talent? I've built the team here. So I built the initial team of about 5 in the first year. And really what I look for is just a couple things. It isn't years of experience. It isn't a CS degree. It's none of those sorts of typical tick-the-box things. Through our interview process, we figure out, can they get something done, right? So we have a coding challenge. Can they commit to getting something done and getting it done? And are they teachable? So we give feedback, right? Can you take feedback, incorporate it, and listen and improve what you've done? These are the 2 main things we look for. If you are those 2 things, you can be successful most of the time through our apprenticeship. Something I've begun to look even more for is not cultural fit, but cultural add. Are you adding something to our diverse team? So traditionally, this is how we've grown. There's a problem with it. We're about 150 worldwide, I think, over 11 years. So our business could support way more than that, but we refuse to not do our apprenticeship. We will not sacrifice quality. Like, this is our quality control, so that our teams, our crafters, are all doing high quality work. We are confident as we put them on a project, they're going to do good work, and we're not going to have those awful failed projects that we see all the time. But it is slow. So we have, here in London, I've hired probably 4 people who have 5+ years experience. Finding those people is difficult. And I don't have a solution to it except to what we've done. Like, well, my only experience is getting out there, right? So talking to people, talking about what we do, who we are, and why someone may want to come and do a mini apprenticeship before they join our team. Finding common ways of working is really what we're looking to do with these experienced people. So yeah, we're looking to augment with more senior candidates, but it's so much harder, as most of you probably know, to find and attract these people. We've been hesitant, I think, traditionally to do this because we see it as riskier. I think it's harder to unlearn bad practices than to teach good practices. So we've had a ton of luck with coding schools, so Dev Bootcamp, Makers Academy, Dev Bootcamp in Chicago, Makers Academy here. We've had, I don't know what percentage of our people were through boot camps, but it's double digits for sure. It goes back to that learning mentality. People that go through those programs are learners. And just one bit, something not to do, right? We sell a vision, right? So high quality software, working with people who are like-minded, who you can learn from. That's what we sell. It isn't about these other things. It isn't about stacks, right? It isn't about ping pong. autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Like, I think those are the important things to talk about as you're recruiting, and that's what we talk about as we recruit. Not sure how I am on time.
So, fantastic talk, and it's sort of lovely to see that some of the practices that we've been at Honeycomb are what you're doing. It's good to really see that. And also some great ideas that we'll steal straight away. But,
please do.
You talked about sort of common ways of working.
Yep.
I found, particularly with talented, passionate software engineers, is that they can tend to also have very strong opinions that are sometimes sort of counter to equally passionate and experienced software engineers, and they've reached a completely sort of diametrically opposed opinion. Is that something you've experienced, and if so, what's your kind of approach to dealing with that, or engaging with that?
So, yes, especially with our clients, we see this a lot, right? I think our apprenticeship has solved this thus far. So even one of my first hires had 10 years experience, had a very particular way that he wrote code, but it came through the apprenticeship, was open and humble, right? So there's a certain humbleness that comes into that joining a company that offers an apprenticeship. So we teach our common way of working. We're pragmatic. You don't have to necessarily do it this way, but I think it's getting to the values that we preach and making sure that it can tie back to it. And then it becomes a personality thing, I think. Within our teams, we haven't seen this as much. I think there's all the common experiences help to get people really on the same page. I don't have good advice to fix that in teams that have that conflict. Yeah. Good question, thanks. And steal whatever you want, please do.
Any question? Yeah.
So I loved what you said about how you don't just have like tick boxes. You say that people have to be teachable, get things done, and add something to the culture as well. Like, absolutely love that.
Thanks.
How do you test for that? It's a horrible word, but during the apprenticeship, or like how do you even decide that someone's like good to start the apprenticeship, or like how do you go about doing that?
It's still subjective. I mean, there's no objective. So our interview process, so for the first two, we have a coding challenge, you submit it, there's also an interview, a pairing process and things like that. So we get a sense of where you're at and how teachable you are. I think we're looking to screen out jerks, right? Like I think that's the biggest thing to look for. So I think we interview many different people. We'll interview someone before the final decision is made. So we're looking for a thumbs up from everybody. And everyone has different things that they might be looking for. So it can be a gender thing, it can be an experience thing, it can be a nationality thing. Like these are all things that I think can add to the culture.
Can I jump in on one of those things?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Claudia. I'm the Chief Talent Officer working with Jim. One part of the interview process is giving feedback. So we'll look at the code, and it doesn't have to be great, and it's okay if it's not, and it's how do you respond to the feedback we give you. So we're seeing the teachable is actually a process within the interview itself. So seeing how people respond to that wasn't quite what we're looking for, try this, and if they do, we're really seeing in action how teachable they are, how they adapt, how the word that keeps coming up that I think is very appropriate is humble, how humble and open to feedback they are. So we really test for that during the whole interview process.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cool. Last question, and then we're doing a break. Then what we'll do is Rachel's talk, and then we'll put everybody on the panel, so we have like a good half an hour properly grilling them. So.
It's obviously great from the hiring perspective. How do you know, well, have you got it wrong, and how do you know if you've got it wrong, and how do you correct, and how early?
All good questions. So we're not 100% on getting people through. So I've been here 4 years, so that's what I'll speak to is my experience here. We've let, I think 4 apprentices haven't made it. It's usually pretty obvious within the first couple months that they're not taking on the feedback, maybe they're not aligned with our values, that sort of thing. So I don't have a good answer for you. It's difficult, and there's difficult conversations to be had to try to get it on track, but we cut it early if it's not. I know what a really good apprenticeship looks like. That's really easy, and anything that isn't that, we sort of challenge and dig in to see if there's some underlying issues.
Sometimes I find the great people are easy, and the terrible people, quite quickly are easy. It's the people in the middle,
Yep.
where they're not quite great and they're not quite terrible, that becomes the most difficult to turn around.
Yes, and we've been successful with some and not with others. It's a case by case, and it's really, in the end, this apprenticeship is for that person to sort of rise up, right? So we're sort of just fanning the flames a little bit. So we're looking for them to adjust and make that mark.
5 minutes for coffee, round of applause for Jim, and then we'll come back.